There's a common belief that if you're not technical, you can't build a technology-driven business. That belief quietly stops a lot of people before they even start. My guest today is proof that that assumption is wrong. Welcome, or hopefully welcome back to The Reluctant Entrepreneur. I'm Mike Conrad. On this podcast, we talk honestly about what it takes to build a business, the uncertainty, the missteps, the lessons you learn only by doing, and the mindset required to keep going when the path isn't clear. My guest today is Colin Hirdman, a serial entrepreneur who has built multiple companies across growth services, software, and now AI-enabled platforms without coming from a traditional technical background. Colin is the co-founder of Rainmaker, where he helps entrepreneurs and businesses use LinkedIn as a genuine growth channel rather than a spam machine. I need to thank him personally for that. He's also the founder of Wrappt, a platform designed to help non-technical founders turn ideas and expertise into AI-powered applications without writing code. In this episode, we talk about Colin's entrepreneurial journey, how he got started, the mistakes that shaped his thinking, and what it's really like building companies alongside long-term partners. We also dig into where AI and automation actually create leverage for founders and where they fall short, and what non-technical entrepreneurs must get right to build sustainable businesses in today's environment. If you've ever felt drawn to entrepreneurship but questioned whether you were qualified, stick around because my conversation with Colin Hirdman begins right now. Well, clearly, Colin, you've grown a pretty gnarly mustache since you took that headshot.
Yeah. Yeah, I do LinkedIn live streams, at least a couple times a week for my businesses. And the picture that I have on those is the same one that you have there. And so I like to say a couple of funny kind of onboarding comments when I first kick off those about my mustache. So yeah, we'll see
Yeah.
how much longer it stays.
Yeah, it's funny because you caused a brief moment of panic that, oh no, we put up the wrong, the wrong picture, and so I started looking, I'm like, oh no, that's him. Yeah, okay. All right, we're all good. No mistakes made.
Yep. No, none. Nope, that's great.
So Colin, take us back to the beginning. What was the moment you first realized that entrepreneurship might be your path?
I think it was through a lot of uncertainty. So I was about halfway through my junior year of college, and still, I had declared my major of criminal justice, but had taken courses in a lot of other areas. And I was talking to my dad. I'm like, I should just drop out. Maybe go into the Marines. And my dad's like, you don't need that. You don't need discipline. You need to just finish up your degree. And so I stuck to the path. And about a year later, halfway through my senior year, I was at my dad's 50th birthday party and ended up meeting a guy there at the party. And after the party, a few weeks later, he approached my dad and was wondering if I'd be interested in starting a direct mail company after college. And so I got together with him and my dad. I had nothing better planned. And so a week after I graduated, I kind of took the helm of building out a direct mail data processing company. And I think uncertainty and luck is what got me into entrepreneurship. I didn't really have a lot of entrepreneurial family members or anything like that. And but it's a path that I greatly appreciate at this point in my life, and the world needs more of them. So I'm happy
Yeah,
to be here, Mike.
that's awesome. You didn't come from a technical background, and you are in, arguably a technical space. At least one of your companies is anyway. Early on, did you feel that that was a disadvantage to not be technical? When you eventually started doing tech type businesses, and have you changed your mind
Yeah,
about that? I mean, maybe that was an
yeah,
advantage. How do you feel about that?
yeah. Well, I mean, certainly, we can't all be, an expert at everything, and so, in that first business that we had. we started off doing direct mail data processing, and then I started bringing in, that was back in 95. And then in 99, I started doing email marketing and web design and custom development, fulfillment. And then in 2006, we sold that company. And, we did have some technical aptitude. My business partner, he had an IT company and he was also a software developer. So he wasn't involved in the direct mail business like I was, but he did help us build out a software product that we ended up utilizing inside the business to help our team manage things and helping our clients understand what was happening with their projects. So we did lean into some technical aspects within that business. And then, Monkey Island Ventures I started that in 2007. So in 2006, we sold Vencio, the direct mail business. And then in 2007, started Monkey Island Ventures. And that business I started with two buddies of mine. We've all known each other since we were about 5 years old. And
Monkey
Monkey
Island
Island's
was
named
a
after Park.
playground. Wasn't that a
Yeah,
playground that you played in when you were
yeah,
kids? That's great.
exactly. Yep.
I
Yep.
love it.
Yep. And that's based in St. Paul, Minnesota, and so our very first idea was a software product, and we kind of took off-the-shelf software and made some changes to it, and then ended up doing a family and friends raise, and ended up building out custom software through some developers we had. So I think more than anything, when you're sitting at the helm of a business, it's figuring out, all the different issues that are coming at you, and that technical component was something that was innate to a lot of the business models that we chose. So, I think, you know, right now that technical barrier is probably as low as it's ever been, and I think it's going to continue to get lower just with using AI and low code, no code tools. There's just lots of those platforms available now, and the cost to hire developers and use developers has also come down quite a bit, and your availability to find them has come down. So, all that is to say, as a non-technical founder, you just have to ensure that if what your business model needs is some technical expertise, that you're filling that gap through the various opportunities that are available to you, bringing on a partner, hiring somebody, bringing somebody in for equity, et cetera. But that shouldn't be a barrier this day and age.
You talk about the your prediction, which I agree with, by the way, that writing code and this tech stuff will just get easier and easier. I remember when I was quite young, I was a teenager. My dad was a computer programmer. Back in the days when computers were the size of entire rooms, on a
Right.
subfloor with cooling
Right.
beneath the floor, and he brought home, and I wish he still had it because it would be a museum piece. He brought home the first original, or the OG, as the young ones like to say, IBM PC. No hard drive, two floppy drives, and
Right.
two 5.25 inch floppy drives. And
Yep.
I was so excited because I was like a Star Trek nerd, and to me that was like, oh my God, I'm on the bridge of the Enterprise here. So he brought it home, and he let me use it, and I turned it on, had a floppy in the A drive, nothing in the B drive, and the A drive was basically DOS, to the operating system, because it didn't have an onboard operating system. So it loaded, and I was so excited. I'm like, I don't know, I'll play a game or something. And of course, I got the A prompt. It was a green monochrome screen with an A and a little arrow, and it's just flashing. I'm like, okay, what do I do? So I type something and hit enter, and syntax error. Like, oh, play game, enter, syntax error, because I didn't know what to do. And
Yeah.
then then eventually I got a computer, and then over the years, I remember the early word processors. WordStar was one of them. But in order to use it productively, you had to memorize all these cheat codes. If you want this, you have to do star 859 shift, or something like that. It was all these codes you had to
Yeah.
remember. There was not a GUI interface. It was
Right.
it was
Right.
just text, and it was very difficult to learn how to even use the word processor. Once you learned it, it was amazing. But same with the earliest spreadsheets. And you had to really do your homework just to be able to utilize it. And, that was in the 70s. Here we are, 2026, and so much has changed. Now, code writes itself through AI, and that's really being exploited too. It's amazing how far we've come. So that my grandkids know how to unlock a phone and download apps, God forbid, and and they and no one taught them. It's intuitive today, right? Which is opens up a huge possibility. Well, I'm preaching to the choir now, but a huge possibility for you and what you're doing with it, because you're helping connect people to that. And the proof is actually in the fact that you started arguably a tech business without being a tech expert, at least at that time, right? That just goes to show. What were some of the earliest mistakes you made that fundamentally changed how you approach building a business? We all make mistakes in
Yeah.
business. What were
Yeah.
some of the epic ones that you try and shove under the carpet?
Right. Yeah. So I think, as a general rule, where we've had our biggest failures is when we've tried to bring something kind of net new to the marketplace that has never been tried before, and that's really, really hard because you're having to, prove that the market wants this. You're going to have to educate the market, and there's just a high failure rate for that. So, with some of the SaaS products we've built, like the very first one that we built in 2007, Buy the Change, which was like a marketplace where people, businesses, and nonprofits could all create profiles. And, this is when Facebook was just starting to take off. And So we were trying to, allow, all these, businesses, organizations, nonprofits, and people to create profiles and connect with one another, and then, people could post things that they're, selling, like their car, or maybe they're selling furniture or whatever, and then they could maybe they own their own plumbing business, right? And they want to market that on there, and then 10% of what they pay by the change would go to the nonprofit of their choice, right? So we were trying to like create this marketplace. Well, we spent 3 years on that and raised money and just didn't go anywhere. Another one that we did a Kickstarter for a smart water meter. So I had started buying real estate back in '08, and I thought, what, with kind of the Internet of Things taking off, I bet homeowners would really love to have a smart water meter so they can see how much water they're using in real time and be able to just, clamp it around a pipe at their home, connect it to Wi-Fi, download the app, and then they'll have real water usage. So we did a Kickstarter, and we raised, I think, close to $120,000 on Kickstarter for the smart water meter, and we ended up getting it built. And unfortunately, there's just not really a market out there. So you think about like the Nest thermostat, that really grew, and people, wanted to know heat and air conditioning, and Google ended up buying Nest. Well, with smart water meters, there just wasn't a market for that. So we spent, a few years working on that, and we thought there was a market, and there wasn't. So I think for any entrepreneur or wannabe entrepreneur out there, it's okay to start a business in an industry that is already, has proven markets, that already has, proven need for what it is that you'll be supplying, because it's not fun running a business and not generating revenue and profit. It's not a fun experience at all.
No,
So
I've been there.
that
Not
would be
fun.
that.
I agree.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I would say that would be my biggest take would just be, it's okay starting a service-based business where you're, productizing something, and charging like a monthly fee for it. I would try and stay away from charging just an hourly rate. You could certainly start there, but if you can get away from charging things by the hour, that's more ideal. There's a article written by Nathan Barry that really, for any early stage entrepreneurs, this thing called ladders of wealth creation. So if they just type ladders of wealth creation into Google, his article will come up, and it will talk about kind of these four ladders, and I won't get into the details, but just very, superficially, the first ladder is working for somebody else. The second ladder is running your own service-based business, charging an hourly rate. The third ladder is offering productized services. And then the fourth ladder are products. And each ladder is more difficult to get to, and each rung up a ladder is more difficult to go up. But each ladder and each rung is also more profitable and more scalable. So I would just say, read that. And I think it would really put a lot of your listeners in a good spot as they're going to try and kind of reduce risk and understand how to build a business. But at a high level, that's what I would say.
And for my audience listening or watching, I'll have a link to that article, Ladder of Wealth Creation, in the show notes. So when this is over,
Wonderful.
Look down and look at the show notes, and that information, as well as other things, will be there as well. When I started my company in 1992, 34 years ago, it's hard to believe, I had zero business acumen. I had a strong technical background, which I needed because I'm in the tech industry. But I was also young. I was 32, zero business experience. And someone at my then employer came up to me and said, hey, he's thinking of starting a business. He's thinking of leaving and starting a business in exactly the same market I was already working on. It was a technology to address a very specific issue that the electronics industry was having. And he said, I was thinking of maybe starting something like that. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm already like halfway down the road on that, and doing all my research and design experiments and building proof of concepts in my garage and things like that. So I panicked a little bit. I'm like, well, this guy had 15 years on me. He had kind of gray hair. So he looked smart. This is crazy. Now, he just looked smart, right? And I lacked confidence, and I thought about it, and I said, I think I'll just tell him my plans and suggest we work together. And that was really a fear-based decision. But nonetheless, that was the decision I made, and he didn't bring a penny to the table. But I said, okay, you work for a year without pay. I'm not getting paid. And, you can get some sweat equity. And the only thing I did, which was a bonehead mistake, but it could have been worse. The one good side of that bonehead mistake is I gave him 49% of the company and I had 51% of the company. And
nice.
Because 50-50 scared me a little bit because I didn't know him that well. But anyway, so we moved forward and started the company together. And it was a disaster from day one. We did not align. We had zero overlap on vision. It was, the moment we had what he thought was success, just because we got a couple of orders, so we had some cash coming in, probably wasn't profitable, but, he wanted to take time off and he wanted to, go on a vacation and get a bonus. And like, we can't. We have to take every penny and throw it back into the business. We're priming the business right now. This money coming in is starter fluid, man. It's not. We can't touch it. And it became very clear that he and I had completely different visions, and I ended up buying him out within 6 months. It was a horrible 6 months, but that was an expensive move because not only did he not put a penny in the company, I had to come up with money to buy him out, right, for his sweat equity.
Yeah.
And that was certainly a learning lesson there. But what it taught me was, I'll make it analogous to how I feel about friends. We have lots of friends. We have friends, and then we have travel friends. And they are not always the same people. Some of our best friends I would never go on a vacation with because they're a nightmare to go on vacation with. And some of our friends are the perfect vacation buddies. They're chill. They go with the flow. They understand things don't always go as planned, and they don't freak out, and they're great. I think business partners fall into that same kind of category as well, that there are people who could be really good in business, but they're not good business partners for you. You have to align. You have to, you have to have the same vision. You have to, one has to have stronger skills in areas where you're weak and vice versa, right? And so you built multiple companies with long-term partners. So it's worked for
Yeah.
you, clearly.
Hmm. Hmm.
What have those relationships taught you about trust and alignment and potentially conflict in entrepreneurship? Because
Yeah. No,
I
yeah.
didn't come out of the other end of that well. So I'm impressed that you
Yeah.
have. How does that work?
Yeah, no, yeah, no, that's a great question. So again, Josh, Zach, and I, we've all known each other since we were about 5 years old, and so having grown up with them, we know each other's character, in and out, and I think there was probably some alignment in having grown up in the same neighborhood with the same influences that were kind of cut from the same cloth.
Yeah,
So, when we were creating kind of alignment, we come up with the five F's for us, which is freedom, finances, family, friendship, and fun, right? And those are the five F's that
I
we
love that.
really live by. And so, we really we enjoy each other's spending time with each other and each other's families. We rent an Airbnb twice a year, and all of our families get together and just hang out at the house for an extended weekend. And the three of us, none of us are really technical, but I think we are we all have like a really good work ethos. We are trust each other implicitly, which I think you have to have, and we put our relationships with each other ahead of money. So money isn't the driving factor of why we're doing what we're doing. And so for the and I think when we've had disagreements around things, if two out of the three feel strongly enough about it, the third one is kind of like, all right, I trust you guys. Let's see what happens. So of course we've had our share of failures, some of which I've shared with you. Probably 70% of the business ideas that we've had didn't work, but it's
Mm.
that 30% that's carrying us forward and allowing us to do what we do. So I do not enjoy running a company by myself and having other people that I can rely on through good and bad times and sharing that experience with. I much prefer that. So everybody's built differently. Some of your listeners would prefer to do it all on their own, and some would prefer to do it with people that they can share that experience with. No one way is better than the other. You just have to make it work. And so, but for me, um, it's been incredibly rewarding, and I love being able to just have business partners that we can really share what's happening with each other personally and professionally, and just know that we're in a safe spot to be able to have those conversations with one another.
I had a guest a couple of weeks ago on an episode I was recording answer the following question with the answer of every day. And here was the question. Was there a point where you seriously questioned whether entrepreneurship was worth continuing?
Oh, yeah, yeah. It is. It's incredibly hard. It's a very hard path. Um, and yeah, there's so much gets tied up into being entrepreneur, and we all fall into these kind of traps of comparing ourselves to other people, comparing our businesses to other people. Business, if you're not growing, you're failing, right? I mean, there's
Oh
so
my
much
God,
tied
yeah.
up into a business. Is it a growth business? Is it a lifestyle business? So I think more than anything, trying to keep yourself grounded, trying to, um, not compare yourself to anything other than yourself, and just trying to better yourself. Um, because yes, I think that any entrepreneur that doesn't question being an entrepreneur is lying, because
Yeah,
there are days where you're just like, oh my gosh, it seems like it'd be so much easier just go work for somebody, get a paycheck,
sure.
and just not worry about you know not worry about anything but just doing my job. And some people, that's what they want. But like I said at the beginning of this, the world needs more entrepreneurs. The world needs more builders and creators. And I can't think of a better way to spend your life professionally than building something of value that your clients really appreciate, that provides your employees with a living and their families, with a foundation. That's incredibly rewarding. And I would encourage all of your listeners that really have that entrepreneurial bug to do it, and for those that are already doing it to keep going.
What does I like to refer to them as the civilian public, the people who sign the back of the check, not the front of the check. So non-entrepreneurs, people who are working 9 to 5 jobs and providing a
Mm-hmm.
service for the company and doing a great job. What do they normally get wrong when it comes to their perception of entrepreneurship?
I think I think too many people think entrepreneurs are in it for the money, or businesses are in it for the money. Of course, money is a component to it, but or that greed is like the driving factor of why people go into business. That's, I think, is a huge fallacy. The vast majority of business owners and entrepreneurs that I've ever met do it because they really want to build something, they want to grow something, they really enjoy that kind of work, and they just want to make the world a better place, and contributing to that through businesses that they own and participate in. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, is that people think that entrepreneurs and businesses are just in it for greed or for money. I think that's not true.
Yeah, I think you're right. Entrepreneurship is romanticized by the public. And I
Mhm.
remember, I've said this on the show before, but I remember many times my friends or family will go, you're so lucky. You own your own business. You can take as
Mm.
much time off as you want. You can give yourself a raise. You can buy things and charge it to the company, and I'm just like,
Mhm.
yeah, okay. Well, that's
Mhm.
Hollywood. That's not reality. In reality,
Yep.
I'm the bottom of the pyramid in terms of the hierarchy.
Right.
I report to everybody. I'll ask them, how many bosses do you have? I mean, direct reports. Well, one. Right. I said, I report to my customers, my vendors, my employees, the government,
Hmm.
the weather, technology changes, the economy.
Yep.
I report to everything. I am the absolute bottom of the barrel here, and of
Hmm.
course, everything
Hmm.
falls down on me. And it's not what you think it is. And sure, I can write myself a check anytime. Whether or not it would cash is a whole other story.
Right.
So through one of the multitudes of companies you have, Rainmaker, you work closely with founders on LinkedIn growth. I'm a huge LinkedIn
Hmm.
fan. I use it
Yeah.
daily. What do most entrepreneurs must understand about LinkedIn as a business tool?
Yep. So LinkedIn is a monopoly in terms of like any kind of a business social network. LinkedIn is it. There isn't anything else. I actually did at the beginning of this year, I did a few Google Trends searches, looking at LinkedIn prospecting, LinkedIn lead gen, and LinkedIn thought leadership. And Google Trends literally showed hockey stick growth in people searching those terms. And so I think most businesses are trying to figure out how to leverage LinkedIn in a way to help them grow their business. And what I found is that I want LinkedIn to be a revenue driver for my company. And I had been doing a lot of growth hacking on LinkedIn over the last 5 or 6 years. And I started Rainmaker just about 2 years ago now. And what I will tell you is, what works out incredibly well for me and for my clients is the following. There's kind of three levels to it. The first level is philosophy, and it's very simple. You have to be authentic to the brands you represent, and to yourself. And I think most people do a great job of that. The second thing is you have to have an educational mindset because nobody wants to be sold on LinkedIn. It doesn't work. It won't ever work. LinkedIn is a business social network. So if you're just trying to sell out there, it won't work. You have to use education. And you also have to have an experimentation mindset, meaning you're going to try certain features and functions within LinkedIn, stack the things that are working and table the things that aren't, maybe try them again at a later date. And then the final thing is, and this is where I put a lot of pressure on myself as a founder or anyone else that's a founder or sits in the sales and marketing seat, which is it's incumbent on us to understand the pains and barriers our prospects are trying to overcome, right? What are the issues that they're facing that they need help with? Once you understand that, then it's, okay, what is it my audience wants to be educated on? And most importantly, what is it they can learn from me? What can I teach? And that's where the real opportunity is on LinkedIn. So that's my basic LinkedIn philosophy, being authentic and genuine, having that education, experimentation mindset, and knowing what it is your audience can learn from you. What can you teach? So that's kind of that top level.
You and I are in complete alignment, particularly on one thing you said. You don't run ads on LinkedIn. You don't try and sell on LinkedIn. You educate on LinkedIn.
That's right.
Many, many years ago, probably 12, 13 years ago, we made a huge switch in our marketing strategy, which was braggadocious, chest-pounding ads. We're the best. Everyone else sucks. Vomiting specifications about our equipment,
Right.
And we just got tired of the sound of our own voice. So one day, quite literally, we just said, "We're done. We're done with that. It's a carnival show. It's just a circus act, right?" And we switched to an education model, and we started creating content. Much of it went onto LinkedIn and other platforms, and we started producing webinars that were 100% non-commercial. We don't even talk about our products. We talk about the customer's issues. And I made a commitment that anytime I travel around the world and speak at technical conferences regularly, and from now on, it's all best practice. It's all education. So if I'm in front of a lectern, a camera, a microphone, if I'm sitting at my computer writing a white paper or technical paper, it's all education. If I'm creating content, tips and tricks, series of video content or webinars, 100% non-commercial. And it didn't take long to start building trust. And when you start building trust and you provide value, and I hate this word because it's been hijacked by others, but you become an influencer and an authority-based influencer. And I can't tell you how our sales, not only were not negatively affected by it, but were positively affected by that.
That's right. Yeah.
And I get people in our industry reach out to me weekly asking me for my advice on things we don't even make because they just trust that I don't have a horse in the race. Now, obviously, with my stuff, I do have a horse in the race, but my motivation is, and this is not just Pollyannish, this is not just like, oh, that's BS, Our motivation when we create content is truly not to sell. It's not to not sell, but we're not manipulating the words because some strategist said, you got to overcome objections, you got to Zig Ziglar your way through, the sales process. We don't have sales in our vision as we create and present whatever we're doing. Clearly, later we see how our sales are doing. Obviously, if they weren't doing well, we would pivot. But our motivation in the moment is quite literally pure. It's to educate.
Yeah.
And
No, that's
so I think, and LinkedIn is like you said, only, but so therefore perfect venue for that type of stuff. Not Facebook, certainly not TikTok, not Instagram, not Snapchat, not that. It's LinkedIn, because at least in my circle on LinkedIn, the algorithms tend to drive you to see more impressions of people kind of that match you. And if someone starts posting political stuff or stuff that really doesn't belong on that platform, within a few minutes, the audience will provide some pretty negative comments on it and say, go on Truth Social or Facebook or whatever, but keep that off of here. You're peeing in our pool. Don't pee in our pool. Is that your the same perception of LinkedIn that you share as well, that it's less tolerant of noise than other platforms?
Um, I would say I think most people just don't want to really politicize things too much on LinkedIn because they don't want to do anything that would push away potential
Yeah,
customers and
yeah,
prospects. So I think other platforms are definitely better suited for that. So,
right.
but I think to your point around providing education and helping you be seen as a thought leader is it's important, and it's also natural. And so when I think when I talked about kind of that top level around philosophy, you know the level underneath that then is around like audience, right? You need to start honing in on who is it that you want to start building relationship with. And what we're typically doing is using Sales Navigator, which is the sales tool that LinkedIn has to build out audiences, because there's other filters and things that you can do to start building out an audience that you can't do with regular LinkedIn search. So Sales Navigator is a tool that we're typically using to build out these audiences. And really what you're wanting to do is start identifying the specific, ideal client profiles that you want to start building first connections with. Okay, that's really what your goal is, because, I don't use LinkedIn InMails and I don't use
No.
LinkedIn advertising. You can certainly experiment with those things, but that's really not in the purview of what I'm spending a lot of my time for myself or for my clients with. So that middle layer is really just honing in on who is it you want to be connecting with. And so for me, over the last year and a half, I've been focusing on fractionals, founders, sales executives, business coaches, and EOS implementers, right? So I've been building out first connections across those 5 kind of verticals. So that's really what that middle layer is. And then the bottom layer is activating that audience. And when you're activating that audience, it's what you're really wanting to do foundationally. Now that you have identified who you want to connect with, is start reaching out to connect with them. So you should be reaching out to around 100 to 125 people a week, and reach out to connect with them to establish that first connection. I would recommend not using a connection message, because you're going to get a higher response rate if you don't use a connection message, and just try and start building out those first connections, because what you want is that pool of first degree connections to be growing week in and week out, because then the other activities that I'll talk about in just a second that you're doing, you'll be able to tap into an ever growing audience. Okay, so that's foundationally the first thing you want to do to activate your audience, is build out new first connections every single week. Reach out to around 100, 125 people a week from the audiences you've identified kind of in that second level. So there's really 3 kind of main campaign types that we're running once we've established those first connections. One are messages, right? So we're running like a drip campaign where the first message is thanking them for the connection, where we're not selling, not even trying to help. And the second message, if they don't reply after the first message, would be like a thoughtful question. Or maybe there's an asset that you've built out that you think would be helpful. Or maybe there's an asset a third party's built out you think would be helpful. But just trying to build a little bit of rapport with these first connections, that you're not selling, you're just there to help and to educate. And then, so that's around like messages, right? Just starting to build up a little bit of rapport through some messages. The other one we also like using are LinkedIn polls, where you could invite a segment of your audience to participate in a LinkedIn poll around a thoughtful question, with some answers they can choose from, where you can start to understand, how people are thinking about a specific topic. And then you can also see, who's responding to it, and starting to understand, who these people are, and how did they respond, potentially even after the poll is over, breaking down the results into maybe a LinkedIn article, or maybe you're breaking it down into some LinkedIn posts, or maybe you're creating an asset around what the poll results were. So LinkedIn polls is another. And the third main strategy we use is LinkedIn live streams. And it's actually the one that I like the most. LinkedIn live streams are an amazing way for you to talk, what you already talked about, Mike, demonstrate thought leadership. Live streams are essentially AI proof, because it's you being live, talking about, a subject that your prospects, want to learn from you about. And it allows you to also really sit in the sales seat. So, the basic, kind of quick process is, when you want to think about live streams, is Identify the audience you want to invite. Create a topic that would be of high interest to them. So the two topics that I've been doing for a year and a half are learn how to grow your network leads and sales on LinkedIn and learn how to do LinkedIn live streams. So I've been doing those same topics over and over and over again. Identify a topic that you can do over and over and over again. Then you don't have to keep creating new content all the time. And
Right.
do not be afraid of inviting the same people over and over again, because you're going to use the LinkedIn event invite function on the event. Okay. So after you've identified the audience and the topic, you're going to create the LinkedIn live stream event, and then you're going to start inviting people, to the event using the LinkedIn event invite function. Those invites come in as an alert. They don't come in as a direct message. And that's incredibly important to understand. Because it comes in as an alert, you could invite the same people multiple times to the same live streams that you're doing, because sometimes they're not going to see the alert. Other times they're going to ignore it. Other times they're going to click through and not click attend. And sometimes they're going to click through and they will click attend. And so you just want to have that flywheel spinning all the time. And that repetitive alert that people see of you doing this weekly or bi-weekly live stream is what establishes in their mind who you are, who your brand is, and what you're an expert in.
Yeah, that's interesting, because they
And
don't
then,
even have to
yeah,
attend it to get an impression
correct.
that, oh, this guy's a
That's
thought
exactly
leader.
right.
Right, right.
That's exactly right. And so then when someone does click attend, now they've crossed this threshold where they know who you are, they trust you enough to click attend. They think your content is compelling enough that they click attend, and now you know who they are. And so that then you put on the live stream. Mine are typically around a half an hour. When the live stream is done, now is your opportunity to sit in that sales seat where you can respond to everybody that registered for the event and say something to the effect of like, hey, Mike, thanks again for registering for the LinkedIn live stream I led. Here's a link to the recording. So the recording lives on that event page forever. And then underneath it, you could have a call to action if you want. One of the calls to action I like doing is saying something to the effect of, if you ever want to chat LinkedIn strategy, feel free to grab some time convenient for you here. And I give them my Calendly link, right? So I'm literally sending a Calendly link to book a meeting around the Rainmaker service, but it doesn't come across as salesy or icky or spammy in any way, because it would be a natural next step for someone to take after they've attended one of my free educational live streams. Okay. And then the other thing that I'll say, LinkedIn does a ton of heavy lifting for you in terms of awareness. When you create the live stream event, it's promoting that event across the network to all of your first connections. When someone clicks the attend button, they are getting a series of emails from LinkedIn about the event, including the first one they get with an add to calendar link. And then they even will get an email the morning of the event reminding them to attend the event. So you're getting all of these brand impressions without having to do anything. LinkedIn is doing all of that work for you. So, if there's any strategy that I would recommend, in the process that I laid out, it would be understand the audience you want to connect with 100 125 people a week in doing the outreach, and then do a live stream at least every other week and invite the audiences that you want to invite to that live stream, and just keep doing that over and over and over again. And I promise that you will establish yourself as a thought leader. You will come across as authentic and trustworthy, and you will end up driving revenue for your business. I mean, you will end up booking meetings. You will end up getting referrals. It's just a natural thing that comes out of just putting in, that goodwill and that kind of educational content into the LinkedIn ecosystem.
Oh, I feel like we just stole $25,000 worth of advice from you. That's good stuff. That's really good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm actually making notes. One of your other companies, Wrappt, and that is WRAPPT. You're helping non-technical founders turn ideas into AI-powered applications. What problem were you trying to solve when you built this, Wrappt?
Yeah, so Wrappt actually it spawned out of Rainmaker. So I had created 3 custom GPTs for Rainmaker where people can use them for free to help them build out LinkedIn messages, LinkedIn polls, and LinkedIn live streams. But with building those out in ChatGPT, you just get this generic link. You don't know who's using it, and that's just not a great experience. So we built Wrappt, where you can create essentially a website around your custom GPTs that allow your prospects and customers to create an account, to log in, to use your custom GPTs. So, like right now, I have, rainmaker.wrappt.ai, and anybody can go and log in there and use my GPTs for free. And it's branded to Rainmaker, and it allows me to understand, who's signing up, who's using the GPTs, which GPTs are they using. So what Wrappt does is it just allows anybody to create that same experience for their business as I did for Rainmaker. And so you can build your own custom GPTs. You can have that be a brandable asset and experience that your prospects and customers can use. And yeah, it's just a great way to leverage custom GPTs more effectively for your business.
I can just hear some of my listeners, and I can just see some of my viewers freaking out right now. Like, oh my God, that sounds great, but I am not technical. I don't even know if I want to go there. For founders
Mm-hmm.
without technical backgrounds, what are the non-negotiables they must get right? Well, first of all, before I even ask you that one, let me finish the prior thought. For those viewers, listeners that are just like sounding excited about it, but just unsure of their own capability, knock that wall down for me. Your stuff is designed for non-technical people,
Mm-hmm.
right? So,
Yeah.
is there a minimum barrier to entry from a technical experience standpoint, or was this designed to be able to use by, business people who may not have a deep technical acumen?
Yeah, and you're to wrap, you mean
Yeah,
specifically?
yeah.
Yeah, no, you don't need to have a technical background at all. So when you create your account on Wrapped, there's a dashboard that kind of walks you through how to create your workspace, and then to create any of the AI assistants that you want to build. Makes it really really easy to do any of that. So yeah, definitely built for non-technical people. We just had somebody sign up last week who's an author, and she wants to create an AI companion to her book that people can use. And so, yeah, she signed up for that. So, yeah, you do not have to be technical. And I would say, both for Rainmaker and for Wrapped, one of our companies is Cloudburst, which is a software development company. If your audience has any questions on LinkedIn, reach out to me. I'd be happy to chat. If they have questions around, Wrapped, I'm happy to talk about that. And, a lot of your listeners, they may be entrepreneurs that have a business idea that they want to turn into software. And that's, Cloudburst early this year just came out with something called My Launch Week. So, where we build an idea to software in 5 days. So if any of your listeners or viewers have a software idea that they want to just chat through, we'd be happy to do that too. I mean, again, we come from a non-technical background. We know exactly what it's like to be, in their shoes. So we'd be more than happy to chat with anybody across any of those three areas.
You said something that's piqued my interest. You had an author who wanted to create an app that was based on her book. Would that be
Mhm.
having feeding your book into you know the learning module and allowing users to ask questions and the answers would parallel with the content of the book, or what's her end goal for that? Just out of
Yeah.
curiosity.
So, yeah, no, it's a great question. So, yes, for her, the book has areas that could be more interactive, where she's giving an experience where people can go into this custom GPT, this AI assistant, and be able to go back and forth with the AI assistant that is, contains all the knowledge of essentially the book, right? So it's able to go back and forth with the user, where they can get their questions answered. And I know that she's even thinking about building out a couple other AI assistants that are kind of more modular based within specific areas of the book. So I think that's really, I think for a lot of authors, there's an opportunity to create a more of an interactive experience based off of books that you've written.
Interesting. So, back to my originally planned question for founders without technical backgrounds, what are the non negotiables that they must get right when building tech enabled companies? Now, that I'm not really speaking
Yeah.
about the use of your Wrappt products now. I'm talking about
No, right.
entering the
Very general,
space
right.
that you're in.
Yep. So the number one thing is if you're going to build, a software product, is you have to know the pain that you're trying to fix. And what I would say is, think about it very, very simply. So if you have an existing business, and there's a pain, within the company that you're trying to fix, just focus on building a software product that just does that. If you're building out a company around a product, just hone in very, very specifically around that pain point, and figure out like exactly, the software should achieve this objective. It's geared for these people with this pain point. It's super easy to go too wide. So you want to just be hyper focused, because if you can't get people to utilize that very narrow vision and version of the software, you're probably not going to succeed. And so, kind of the trajectory is identify the pain point, create the product to address that pain point. If it's starting to fix that pain point, then you want to start iterating as fast as possible to improve the product based off of what you're seeing and experiencing and based off of the user feedback that you're getting. And one of the things that I talk about, when I do the live streams kind of on this my launch week, is speed to iteration is one of the top indicators of success. Because if you're iterating fast on the product, it means that you're learning, and it means that you're improving. And that is what's going to get you ultimately to hit the level of success that you're going to want to hit, is that kind of speed to iteration. So I would say just stay simple, stay focused on a very specific pain that you want to fix, and then build as light a product as you possibly can to just get it out in the world to see, is it actually starting to address the pain, and are your users actually engaged?
Yeah, good advice. We're starting to run short of time, so just a couple more questions. For someone listening or watching who feels drawn into entrepreneurship but is unsure if they're qualified, this is not specifically on technical, just in general, what would you tell them?
I would say trust your instincts. And one of the biggest, I think, contributors to success is perseverance and being creative. And I think for most humans, that creativity is built into us innately. That perseverance is something that I think naturally you build up as you just continue to wake up every day and continue progress on whatever it is that you want to work on.
Colin, how did you define success when you first started your first business? Well, maybe not your first, because you were doing business in your crib. I think you were a child
Well,
entrepreneur.
yeah.
So when you first started your adult business, I should rephrase that because people are going to go, "What? What business was that?" When you
Yeah.
first started a business as an adult, how did you define success, and how do you define it now?
Yeah, it's a good question. Um, I think, defining success when I was younger was wanting to have something that was, really scalable and was growing, by leaps and bounds. But I think that was unrealistic, and it was putting a lot of pressure on myself and my team in ways that just wasn't healthy. What I look at success now is, um, are we improving every day. And those kind of micro improvements should be celebrated. You should be, you know, focused in on the key metrics still around growth that matter. But what I think I'm not as focused so much on scalability and like huge growth as I am on just continued, daily, weekly, monthly growth, because that's what matters more than anything else. I was speaking to a really successful entrepreneur here in Minnesota, one of the top entrepreneurs really that have ever been in the state. And one of the things that he said, is inch by inch, anything's a cinch. And I think that's the mindset that you really want to have, is just don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just try and improve, day in and day out. And to me, that measure of success, and that can be across company goals, that can be across a healthy culture that you have, happy employees, happy clients, and again, just compare yourself to yourself. Don't compare yourself to others.
That's wise advice. For my audience who would like to get more information on Colin's companies, I think he started 6 more since we started recording this morning, but he's got a lot of experience and he's got a lot of experience under his belt. I'll have links to his companies, particularly the ones that we talked about today, in the show notes. If you're watching this on YouTube, just look down here where it says see more, and that information will be there as well as a link to the article he recommended, Ladders of Wealth Creation, and his LinkedIn profile and things like that will be there as well. So if you'd like to reach out to Colin through LinkedIn, that's certainly the venue of choice, not just for Colin, myself as well. And I really appreciate you being here, Colin. You're a wealth of advice, particularly when it comes to LinkedIn. And I think, and as far as I'm concerned, I've been using LinkedIn for years, and I feel like I've only scratched the surface of what it's capable of. And you're giving me some inspiration to look a little deeper into the capabilities and things like that, rather than just post all of the content that I create, like pictures on a fridge.
Yep.
Right. There's certainly, that's one good use of LinkedIn, clearly, but there's certainly a lot of tools under the belt. I get emails directly from LinkedIn regularly, and direct messages from LinkedIn about all these different things that they do, and I'm just so busy. I just one day, and but clearly LinkedIn is way more than just a place to post stuff, right? It's got a lot of tools under its belt that go unnoticed by many of us.
Yeah, and I think for anybody that is listening or viewing, really just stick to what I laid out. If you notice, I didn't talk about comments or likes or posts or any of the craziness that happens in the organic feed. What I'm talking about is growing your first connections week in and week out, and then using messages, polls, and especially live streams to drive thought leadership and ultimately leads and sales, using that process. And what I do with Rainmaker, anybody can do manually if they want. My clients hire me just because I'm able to bring a level of automation to it. But other than that, the process is the same. So, and it works. I absolutely guarantee that it will work.
Well, that's great. Well, Colin, I wish you continued success on your business empire, and you and your partners. And
thanks, Mike.
I really enjoyed our conversation. It was quite insightful, and I learned. That's one thing I love about hosting the show is I get to hear what works, what doesn't work from multiple perspectives, and I really appreciate that. To me, it's a huge blessing. So thanks for being here and sharing your wealth of knowledge with my audience and me.
Oh, no, happy to, Mike. You're a wonderful host, and
Thank you.
Continued success with your business as well.
Thank you. And that's a wrap. Here's a few final thoughts. One of the takeaways from my conversation with Colin Hirdman is that entrepreneurship doesn't require having all the answers or even the right background before you start. Colin's journey is a reminder that progress often comes from curiosity, iteration, and surrounding yourself with the right people. not necessarily from technical credentials or perfectly formed plans. Whether it's building companies, navigating partnerships, or using tools like AI and automation, the real differentiator isn't the technology. It's the judgment, integrity, and persistence. If you're listening or watching this episode and questioning whether you're ready, qualified, or experienced enough to take the next step, this episode makes one thing very clear. Most entrepreneurs figure it out after they begin, not before. Thanks for joining me on this episode of The Reluctant Entrepreneur. A very special thanks to Colin Hirdman for being my guest on this episode. We've been busy recording future episodes with fascinating guests, so be sure to subscribe to get notified when new episodes drop. And one personal favor, if you're watching this on YouTube, consider giving us a like and subscribe. Those 2 simple clicks really help us expand our reach. If you're an entrepreneur or know someone who would make a great guest, I'd love to hear from you. Visit reluctantentrepreneur.podcast.com to apply or recommend a guest. Or you can reach out to me directly at mike@reluctantentrepreneur.podcast.com. And of course, a very quick shameless plug. If you're interested in my book, The Reluctant Entrepreneur, Anatomy of a Business Startup from Uncertainty to Unstoppable, it's available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon and as an audiobook on both Audible and Amazon. Thanks again for listening or watching. Until next time, be unstoppable. I'll see you again soon.